morning, good afternoon, good evening. Here is a video clip of somebody talking about the corruption in Zimbabwe and how a whole mountain is disappearing.
Machaira achiphwanya mugwagwako asimi muchipuwa zvimadhiri in the back offices muchipuwa zvimakati namachinese. I was in Shurugwi the other day. I'm going to do a documentary on that.
Yeah.
The whole of Boterekwa is finished.
How would you see?
It's finished. The Chinese have finished that whole mountain.
Boterekwa.
Rapeka apachina.
Yeah.
I see road nova pashurugwi paya. Makomba oga.
Yeah.
But the Chinese are milking gold, chrome, and platinum. Not even fixing the road where they are carrying the very minerals with. And our Minister of Mines, Mr. Chitando, is sitting in his office putting on a bow tie, speaking lots of English. And we must be watching as Africans, particularly as Zimbabweans. And we call it, oh, you're not patriotic. I am one of the most patriotic in this country. And I think I've earned my stripes. I can call him to order. And I have my own problem with my own farm. And they put Chitando's name inside. Shumba, the guy was given the contract. He's on my farm right now. For the past 17 years, they've been vandalizing our farm. You raise these things, you're not being patriotic. I think we need to separate patriotism from corruptions and some of the evil habits which some of the ministers and government officials have accumulated a habit of thuggery.
Ben, what do you think to that? What do you say to that one?
Good day to you and good day to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. You know, I also happen to come from that area. You know, for about a decade or so, there was Unki mine. These were, you know, Western investors, and they were mining platinum. And during that period, you know, of about a decade of mining, they never paid anything for, you know, their activities. Rather, it was said that they were collecting samples. This is what it was. So for me, the bottom line, and I agree with the good sir there, I forgot his name, it's all about paying somebody to turn a blind eye or to facilitate a deal, and it doesn't benefit the area, it doesn't benefit the country as a whole. He's spot on. He is spot on, and he has the right to go and ask, hey, what is this?
The guy's name is Joshua Mapanga. I think what he's saying is true. When you're talking of Boterekwa, I think most people would know that is a big mountain. And for a whole mountain to disappear, and they've got nothing to show for it, that is the tragedy. And it's not only happening in Shurugwi, it's happening everywhere. Zimbabwe is being looted, and the looting has accelerated since Mnangagwa got into power. When you listen to a documentary like the Al Jazeera we were talking about the other day, where we were talking about the gold and how the gold mining in Zimbabwe is worth $2 billion US per annum. And 80% of that is being smuggled. That's when you realize we are in serious trouble. How can 80% of the nation's resources be looted? And the looters have become so powerful. The question we've been asking here, and will want to underline is as Zimbabweans finally waking up to the tragic political reality that the country is a failed state, or is it too little, too late? What do you think, Ben?
I can say without a doubt that the people of Zimbabwe, are aware that we are in a political mess. Those that were even slow to realize are realizing that this is not proper. And I believe even those within, the ruling party, they can see that this is not proper, but they're not willing to, do the proper thing. They are mainly disgruntled because they're not having their own share of the loot. The biggest problem with Zimbabwe is after knowing this, what needs to be done. And I think that is, our biggest stumbling block. Some know what needs to be done, but they do not want to take that road because it will not link up with some person that they think is good for us. They now want to wait for a Messiah to give them a direction to say, let's go and do this. It's as if now they are blinkered. They have given away free will to choose for themselves. We cannot say people are not aware. People are aware. It is people that do not want to do the right thing and accept that whatever we were being told was a lie. We need to do ABC to get us out of this mess. And by doing ABC, it would mean getting rid of many politicians, both within ZANU-PF and the opposition. And that doesn't sit well with many people.
Well, one of the reasons why I would say is all too little, too late is that we cannot deny that Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF have become incredibly powerful. The looted wealth has enabled ZANU-PF to buy literally everyone who is anyone in Zimbabwe society. Mnangagwa must have spent at least $5 billion in the 2023 election process, from buying chicken and chips for all those povo who were passed from one rally to another and then were frog marched on the day of voting to vote for the regime, to buying cars for all the chiefs, all the church leaders, and many, many others. The next level was the so-called housing loans, where $40,000 were given to MPs and senators, and the scale was rising up to $500,000 given to the ministers, 400,000 to the judges. All those people were being bribed to help rig the elections. And needless to say, Mnangagwa was able to bribe the opposition. Some people have been trying to deny that Chamisa didn't know that ZANU-PF was rigging the elections. Of course he knew ZANU-PF was rigging the elections. Of course he was lying when he said he had plugged the vote rigging loopholes. He knew ZANU-PF was rigging the elections. He just wanted people to participate in their numbers to give the process legitimacy. What was his reward? Well, for those Triple C leaders who won their MP or senatorial or council seats, they got a seat on the gravy train. And many of them, even when they were warned, and when SADC and AU had said the election process was flawed, they still insisted in taking up their gravy train seats. Because that is what they were after. They didn't care that the elections was flawed, as long as they get their share of the spoils. This is the tragic reality. People of Zimbabwe have got to wake up to the reality that we do not have a multi-party system. Elections are now a farce. MDC Triple C leaders have been participating in these flawed elections to give ZANU-PF victory and legitimacy. They are ZANU-PF Team B in all but name. And this is why I say it is all too little, too late. Particularly those who think we can have any meaningful political change in the current setup. ZANU-PF is not going to reform itself out of office. And Triple C, MDC Triple C are part of ZANU-PF. They are not going to implement any reforms to end the ZANU-PF dictatorship. All they are doing is lie to the people, give them the impression that they are going to win rigged elections so that they participate in their millions to give ZANU-PF legitimacy. That is my answer to the issue raised here. It is too little, too late.
Yes, I must agree with you there to say, our biggest stumbling block is that a few people have failed to realize that, the opposition has been playing two sides all along. They are very, very much willing participants, in this whole ZANU-PF fiasco. They are the main ingredient to ensure that ZANU-PF retains power. And they are charged to entice the people to participate in rigged elections and give ZANU-PF legitimacy. And in that, they get their own share of the spoils. It's obvious, but it doesn't sit well with most people because people have turned now to make heroes out of certain individuals. Now, for you to be told that you were the fool all along, it hurts, but it's the truth. People of Zimbabwe need to wake up to that reality that we need to change our ways of thinking. We need a serious system reboot. That is the only way we can have real change. Not with this crop that we have. I don't think it's possible. And if we continue in this year path, surely I don't know about our children and children's future. And I believe we will be all responsible for the actions that we are taking today. You may not be stealing directly, but you are allowing the thieves by perpetuating them, by not thinking for yourself and not thinking ahead for your children's children. So I've always said this, for us to have meaningful change, and SADC and all observer missions have said the same thing, we need to implement reforms or the recommendations that they gave us to ensure that we have a government that is by the people and for the people. So again, I say, and I've always said, if there are not going to be those recommendations implemented, there shouldn't be elections. There shouldn't be, because it is a farce, like you said. No reforms, no elections. That's the way to go, period.
Well, the other reason why I believe that it is all too little too late is that Mnangagwa has stepped up his rule by fear. Ever since Blessed Geza challenged the regime in January of this year, denouncing this so-called Vision 2030 as a mirage, Mnangagwa has spent some of the billions of dollars looted from the country's wealth to buy off many people, including the war veterans. And now that he feels he's in a more secure place, he has turned to violence. The level of intimidation of his critics has gone into overdrive. The other day he was talking about, are you a comrade? And if you are, then you should know the way of the party. And if you overstep, Tinokusashanga will beat you up. This has become his very standard language. And it's not an empty threat. Since the country's independence in 1980, over 40,000 Zimbabweans have lost their lives in politically motivated violence. And in most of those activities, Mnangagwa was at the heart of it. I'll give him the last word. Here he is speaking about the media and how if the media people overstep, Bakram Ziso.
Under my leadership, the media will continue to be our cornerstone for promoting unity, peace, social cohesion, harmony, and the love for our country. Anything besides this, Chibakera Mziso.
We cannot deny that where we are going to see more violence. And this is a regime that has never shied away from using brute force to cower down the nation. ZANU-PF has gone into overdrive on looting the nation's resources. When you're talking of 80% of the nation's resource is being smuggled, is being looted, is going into the mafia's hands, that is a lot of wealth. The rest of the country has got to share the 20%, while Mnangagwa and his cronies take the lion's share of 80%. And then he uses that money to silence all his critics and opponents. It's not going to be easy. We need to end it, I agree, but it's not going to be easy because the man in the regime is now extremely powerful. Thank you very much. Ben, do you want to give your closing remarks?
Yes, in closing, I would say, we really need to put our act together as a people. Like you just said, Mnangagwa is paying his critics, and they're all in his, on his payroll. There is no denying that. But there is millions of us, and millions of us means millions of brains. Let us free ourselves and start thinking for ourselves and find a lasting solution to this. And the good thing, and I've always said this, half the job has already been done for us. We were given recommendations, and with these recommendations lies all our power. If we demand that, there is no way ZANU-PF will get political legitimacy come 2028, because they would have violated the people. Elections about us, not about choosing a leader. It's about us, what we want. And let us claim that power and move forward. Thank you.
I'll also end on that note, that we are not going to end corruption without ending the case of rigged elections and bad governance. The right to a meaningful say in the governance of the country, the right to free, fair, and credible elections is more than just a right. It is the very essence of good governance. Zimbabwe is a failed state because for the last 45 years, we've been stuck with a corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical ZANU-PF dictatorship, complete with its equally corrupt, incompetent, and utterly useless MDC, Triple C opposition. We cannot deny that MDC and Triple C have played a major role in helping ZANU-PF stay in power and have legitimacy, particularly since the 2008 to 2013 GNU. Think about it. Thank you very much. And those of you who were able to join us, thank you again. You can join us again tomorrow, 7 o'clock UK time or 8 o'clock Zimbabwean time. Good night.